Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Okay, so yes, good morning, everybody, and happy beginning of a Daylong opportunity to practice intensively. For some, this is a rare opportunity. For some of you, you've been on full immersion retreat, so this is going to feel like retreat light. This is going to feel actually quite open and free and mild, because when we break up for sitting and walking, it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, no, sit and walk. But what we like to do, what I think we need to do is have some input, get some Dhamma input, give ourselves something to consider and contemplate and process. I've found in my own practice that it's not necessarily the long hours on the cushion of attending to the mind and developing the mindfulness that causes me to make the breakthroughs and get the insights, but rather it's when some little idea just gets its hook in. Yeah, some aspect of the Dhamma intrigues me, and I actually just sit and think about it and contemplate it and really just look at it from various angles. That this is actually how the mind works. We sometimes miss the difference between thinking and thoughts. Thinking is something we do. It's a process of directing our attention, but thoughts are things that occur because of our thinking. We are not in control of our thoughts. They are conditioned phenomena that arise and we notice. But what is it that conditions them? What is it that causes our thoughts to arise? Well, that's a product of where we're putting our attention. So we're in charge of the thinking, but not the thoughts. So how do we get the good thoughts that cause us to, oh, I get it. How do we get the aha thoughts that result in us seeing things in a new way? Well, it's a process of how we're directing our attention. So today we're going to be directing our attention a little bit towards the aspect of stream entry, or the three fetters that sort of block the stream entry, that are the gateway to stream entry. And previously we have talked about the fetter of doubt, and we talked about how doubt as a hindrance, as a fetter, as an obstruction to enlightenment, is all about what we call yoniso manasikara, is all about wise attention and unwise attention. Basically, wise attention is looking at things through the lens of the Four Noble Truths. It's looking at things from a particular perspective where we want to see them as they are, rather than how we'd like them to be or how we'd like them not to be, but just as they are. We want to see things without any obstructions. Yeah, that is wise attention. We're trying to get to the true nature of things, the source of things. That is yoniso manasikara. And this is how we conquer doubt. And that's wise attention. And with doubt, unwise attention is everything else. Yeah, basically anything else we can be doing with our mind or our time, whether wholesome or unwholesome. It's just if it's undirected, if it doesn't have a purpose or a goal, it doesn't necessarily help us against the fetter of doubt. But today I wanted to expand it a bit, rather than to just keep talking about doubt and saying, like, well, just read the Dhamma, read the Dhamma, read the Dhamma, read the Dhamma, and you'll get it. Just stop thinking about the other stuff, read the Dhamma. And expand it a bit to recognize that when it comes to stream entry, it's not like we we figure out the fetter of doubt, and then we cross it off our list, and then we go to the second fetter, silabata paramasa, which is attachment to rites and rituals, and then we work on that for a while, cross it off our list, and then we look at sakaya ditti, which is identity view, and we go through, and then we cross it off our list, and then one day we wake up and we've crossed off all three, and we're like, I'm a stream enterer, I did it. But the interesting thing about enlightenment, as the Buddha, the canonical Buddha, presents enlightenment, is it's actually a kind of momentary explosive process of breakthrough, of insight, of opening of the Dhamma eye. Yeah, there is a moment when these fetters are cut. And as we've talked about in some previous sessions, they're cut in a very particular way. We have a mind stream. We have a stream of consciousness. We have the mind, one thought. We only have one thought at a time, but there's a kind of way that the thoughts are following each other, and our mind is checking in on the body, it's checking in on the ear, it's checking in the eye. It's forming a cohesive idea of us, our life. And there's no way in this train of thought to really stop certain processes while they're happening, because they're already happening. You're conscious. So when you're conscious, you can't get outside of consciousness and rewire consciousness while it's happening and then jump back into it. No, your thoughts are conscious thoughts, right? So to cut the fetters, we have to cut them in such a way that the cut happens before consciousness arises. We have to dramatically alter the way that we view the world. Yeah, we are changing something about our entire approach, the way the mind works. We are changing it in such a way that we no longer have the ability to unchange it. And we make that cut. We realize that this one thing that we keep doing is causing us suffering. And so we go in and we make a cut. And then because of that, consciousness has to stop for a second so that we can rewire things. And it starts back up. And it's an actual mind moment where you've changed something, and everything that follows past that point is different. It no longer has that thing that was in the way. It no longer has that fetter, that bond, that strong attachment that was holding us down to a particular way of being in the world. Yeah. And once that cut is made, because the consciousness starts back up, there's no way to go back and unmake the cut. It's cut. It's gone. It's done. And so for the rest of your life, you no longer have to worry about it. But in that context, stream entry cuts 3 fetters. So that means in one powerful moment of breakthrough understanding, you're cutting all 3 at the same time. So while we can talk about doubt, or we can talk about identity view, or we can talk about rites and rituals as individual things, and the Buddha talked about them as individual things and what they look like and how you can recognize them. What I'm kind of interested in kind of looking at today is the understanding that they're a package deal, right? You can attenuate, you can reduce each one of them individually, but they're only going to get smaller. The thing is, they are all 3 of them sitting on a foundation. And when you break that foundation, they all go at the same time. And the purpose of this is to get us to kind of think like, what is that foundation? What is the one thing that we're doing that makes these 3 very seemingly different things possible? What could it be? And in the Pali Canon, they don't deal with it a whole lot, because basically you find 2 kinds of people. Yeah, you find people who don't get it, and you find people who do get it. And you don't actually have to explain it to the people who are already stream enterers. They already get it. Yeah, you're just going to teach them how to go further on the path. And the people who don't get it, they consistently don't get it until they sit down and they talk to somebody who has figured this out already, and they can help them kind of work through it. The number one cause for somebody to attain stream entry is the voice of another, is the words of another, right? So meet somebody who has figured this out, and they can talk them through it, because we don't even realize the things that are. That's the thing about being ignorant, right? We keep saying the thing about being ignorant is that you're ignorant of what you're ignorant of. You don't know what you don't know, and that's actually the problem, is that you don't know it. And the moment you know it, you know it. But until you know it, you don't know what it is you don't know. And so, everybody else in the world who is not pursuing this particular kind of insight just doesn't know. It's not like there's sometimes a stream enter and sometimes not a stream enter. This is something you get only through intention, through actually applying your mind to this. It's not something you do by accident. So again, looking at this, what is this? What is this moment? What is this understanding? What is that one thing that we do that compounds itself into a variety of quirky little, very human activities that keep us endlessly trapped in the wheel of samsara from beginningless time until endless time, life after life, birth after birth, endless new forms of suffering. Yeah. What is it? When we kind of approach it, and actually sometimes kind of simple. It's like, oh yeah, I just stop believing that there's anything permanent in the world. Or, oh yeah, stop speculating about the nature of the universe, and that's it. Yeah. But can you do that in such a way that you'll never start up again? Yeah. Can you see so definitively that actually doing that hurts? That even if you forget about it, even if you were to come back to it 3 months later, and a thought arises, like maybe I'll think about, the beginning of the universe and where we all came from, and are we really riding along on the back of a giant turtle shell? And then you're like, oh yeah, oh no, that still hurts. Yeah, that's still a bad idea. Yeah, that doesn't lead anywhere. It just spins me in circles. Oh yeah, that's why I gave that up. And at that point, this is why stream entry is stream entry. Yeah, at that point, you can't lose this understanding. Yeah. To put it in the words of one of said people who got it, this is something you will see in the. I could probably even share this here. I'm kind of playing with fire, doing all of these things, but okay. So we have just a normal interaction between the Buddha and this is a Brahmin named Janusoni. And after a talk where Janusoni, who actually has a fair amount of faith in the Buddha, talks through some of the things that he has doubt about and he's confused about. And they get to the end of the talk, and Janusoni has got it. And he says something that's actually you see a lot in the Pali Canon, where somebody enters into actually the first stage of enlightenment. They say, magnificent, Master Gotama, magnificent, just as if you were to place upright what was overturned, to reveal what was hidden, to show the way to one who was lost, or to carry a lamp into the dark so that those with eyes could see the forms. In this way, has Master Gotama, through many lines of reasoning, made the Dhamma clear. I go to Master Gotama for refuge, to the Dhamma and to the Sangha of monastics. May Master Gotama remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge from this day forward for life. This is the entryway to this kind of understanding. This is the first moment of somebody kind of getting what is ahead of them. Basically, this is somebody seeing those three fetters and starting to get the idea, like, why do I keep doing this to myself? Yeah. And they present it like they have just woken up to something that was always there, but they couldn't see. They didn't realize. It was like something had fallen over and they had just left it there. If you think like you have a chair in your room and it falls over one day and you come in the next day and you don't think there's anything weird about it and it's just there. And before you know it, you've gone days, weeks, and the chair is overturned. Or maybe even more realistically, like you're you go into a hotel room, yeah, to stay a couple of days, and the chair is overturned, and you never think, oh, that's weird, but like you just leave it there, and that's just the way that that piece of furniture is. It's not a very good chair because you have to sit on the kind of a weird part of it, but that's just the way that chair is. It never occurs to you to turn it upright. But then one day somebody says, "Oh, that's sideways. That's not the way that works." And you turn it upright, and you're like, "Oh, wow, it's a way better chair." Yeah. Or you go into the hotel room and it's like super dark, and you're always stumbling around, especially in the middle of the night. You're trying to get to the bathroom and you're bouncing into things because you don't really know the place. And then one day somebody shows you, "Oh, this thing on the wall. This is, yeah, I know you've probably never seen switches like this in this country, but this is, yeah, it's this newfangled thing." And and the lights come on, and suddenly you can see, oh wow, that's that wallpaper is really ugly. Oh wow, this is a big room. Oh, I didn't even know there was a chair over there. I've been sitting on the bed the whole time. You know, that sort of thing. This is this first realization of seeing these fetters and seeing this quality, this possibility of stream entry. Yeah. The vast majority of beings in samsara do not wake up to the possibility. But once you have, you get what the Buddha constantly in the Pali is atta. You get a sense of purpose, a sense of goal, a sense of direction. And this is the main only difference between somebody who's on the path and somebody who's not. Somebody who's on this path to enlightenment has as their goal. And anybody who hasn't yet had that arise for them, this sense of, wait, there is this goal of being free of suffering. There's this knowledge, I am suffering. There is this knowledge that suffering is being caused by stuff that I'm doing. And there's an understanding, oh, wait, there is a way to get free of this. There is a way to be at peace. Once they have that realization, then they have a goal. Whereas before they were just wandering around. Yeah, they didn't even realize things were overturned. The room was dark. Their glasses were dirty. You get that, Linda. If you wipe them off, it's like, oh wow, it's very bright in here. I thought it was foggy. They're starting to see things as they are. So now we get to the visual aid part of this. If I can get zoom to human meat one more time. Okay, I'm gonna need someone. Anyone? Can you see that? No. Is it too small?
The right-hand column is completely blacked out.
Yeah. But that's the dramatic reveal. Okay, but you can see the left side. Okay, good. I wanted to look at let's see if I can zoom a tiny bit here. Okay. So we have stream entry, right? And as we said, there are 3 fetters that the Buddha points to as needing to be cut in order to have the fruit of stream entry. So the very first, so we just talked about that point of understanding, hey, there is this goal. That is the first level of enlightenment. And you will see, wait, there's something in the way. I'm stuck. And there will be an understanding that it hurts. Be an understanding that you're suffering in a very peculiar way, and you never realized it before, but you would really, really, really pretty please like to not be suffering. And eventually, over time, through either through contemplation, through meditation, through consideration and reading, or maybe you just sit down with somebody who really understands this and who talks you through it and points out the things that you're hung up on. You come to an understanding of these fetters, and you can break them. But they are identity view, doubt, and attachment to rites and rituals. An interesting thing about doubt, this is something I didn't think much about because it's never explicitly said in the Pali Canon, but doubt is a fetter, but it's also a hindrance to meditation. It's one of the five hindrances that we talk so much about. And it's a funny thing about that list of five hindrances because as soon as you attain the fruit of stream entry, you've only got four hindrances. Yeah, that's a 20% of the project is done in terms of mastering meditation, right? You no longer have this as a hindrance because it's the same thing. The fetter of speculative doubt, of cynical doubt, of unfounded disbelief falls away. And you no longer have that coming up in the middle of your meditation saying, are we doing this right? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Am I getting anywhere? That little voice kind of disappears and you're like, well, it's time to meditate. You just you don't ask why, you don't ask what's the purpose of this. You just do it because you already know the purpose of it. The commentaries will also say some other things fall away at stream entry. These are things that are there for people of the world, but that once you attain stream entry, you get rid of them because they're just so really painful. And there's not much expanded about these, but envy, jealousy, hypocrisy, fraud, denigration, and domineering. Yeah, and again, these don't come in the Pali Canon, they come in the later commentaries, but you can kind of see how some of them are based on telling lies. And so if one is trying to keep the five precepts, they would definitely be avoiding that to the best of their ability. There's some that really lead into theft, coveting another's possessions and trying to get them, yeah, and fantasizing about having them and thinking that they don't deserve them. And I'll take care of that Ferrari so much better than they will. Yeah. So again, if you're practicing the second precept, you're going to be really cutting into that. And denigration and domineering is deal a lot again with the fourth precept, how we might put people down, insult them, make little of them to try to put ourselves up on a pedestal. The stream enterer tends to have been thoroughly humbled by the realization of how dramatically ignorant they were up until this point, and that there are people who understand things much better than them all of a sudden. That it's much less frequent. You see anybody who gets that, like trying to put themselves on a pedestal and keep people below them. More often, they feel the other way around. It's like, wow, look at them. They're all sitting so straight, so proper. They never scratch or change their posture. I bet they're all in the fourth jhana, and here I am, like having so much trouble in meditation. Yeah, it tends to go the other way. You assume my mind is crazy. What is wrong with me? And there's your own suffering. It becomes harder to imagine that actually everybody in the room has kind of the same thing going on in their minds. And I say that because I've talked to a lot of people who say that. It's like, my mind is doing something. I think it's broken. I don't think I can meditate. And they're like, no, everybody does that. Literally everybody is doing that. There's another thing that comes up, and there are five unrecoverable actions that one might do. Such as killing one's mother or father, killing an enlightened being, wounding the Buddha, or causing a schism in a united Sangha. This shows up in the Pali Canon because, yeah, you get enough monks and Buddhist practitioners and non-Buddhists walking around. Sometimes these things do happen. Yeah, there was a king Ajasattu, so a prince who killed his father and then became king. And then he went to the Buddha, and the Buddha said to the monks after giving Ajasattu a Dhamma talk, he's like, he would have attained stream entry, but he killed his father. He was just completely blocked. Yeah. The thing about stream entry is that once one attains stream entry, it's not possible for them to do these things. And there would be such a sense of humility and avoidance of bad conduct that they're in deep fear actually arises that they might commit one of these. They don't even get in within a mile of doing any of these things. Yeah. The stream enter also doesn't can no longer have any karma or resultant, which might result in rebirth as an animal, as a hungry ghost, or in hell. And it's the thing about rebirth in the Buddhist cosmology. Yeah, it's a thing. The Buddha talks about it in like 30% all the Dhamma talks that he gives. He talks about how samsara is a long, endless procession of being born in various forms. But for one who has made this cut, the ability to be ignorant of suffering is gone. You're suddenly dramatically clear about the fact that you are suffering, and the life of an animal, of a ghost or a hell being, is immense suffering. Again, the sense of fear of wrongdoing, would we call kiriotapa, is so strong that a person just could not do the things that would get them landed in that realm. Because in addition to bad karma, you also need a fair bit of ignorance of the nature of action and consequences itself to end up in those realms. If you do understand this, then you couldn't end up in those realms. You couldn't be ignorant of what's going on. You do really bad things and feel really bad about it, but the fact that you know it was bad and you feel bad about it means that you can't get the full weight of karma that would land you in those existences. And finally, we see that the stream enter can't fall away from the path and practice. In the Ratana Sutta, it says even if they're exceedingly heedless, still they wouldn't take an eighth birth. Which is to say, even if you don't practice at all, you're still going to eventually develop because you've broken through the ignorance that keeps you in samsara. You're no longer dependent on external conditions. So the person who's not a stream enter yet, they actually need external things to be right for them to do any kind of practice, right? They go to a Dhamma talk, they don't like what the teacher's saying, they walk out. They go to a meditation hall, they start sitting, the cushion's not very comfortable. There's a weird smell in here. What is that, incense? It's like, no, I don't do fragrances. They get up, they walk out. They find many a reason to not practice. They're actually quite good at it. Yeah. But this is one thing that's going to be kind of falling away, and the understanding that you're always practicing to some degree will start to arise. And then finally, taking anyone other than the Buddha as the root teacher. So in one sutta, it says these are the 6 things that the stream enter can't do. There's the 5 unrecoverable karmas, and then this one, taking somebody other than the Buddha as the root teacher. And anticipating a little bit of a kickback on that one, I say that this is definitely absolutely a thing. If you understand the nature of the goal of enlightenment, you understand the Buddha as the teacher specifically of that goal, then you couldn't put the Buddha as a lower standing than any other teacher who's teaching, even if they're teaching the same thing. So now it is possible to have all sorts of teachers and to take to learn from all different sources. But even to understand the Dhamma in a place where they don't really talk about the Buddha at all. There were times in ancient China when Buddhism was coming up from the south that people would attain stream entry having no concept of the Buddha as a human being at all, but hearing the Dhamma and coming to an understanding. The thing is, if they did encounter the word of the Buddha, the essence of the Buddha as a teacher, they would immediately have a sense of respect. It's like, oh, that's where this comes from. That was somebody who got this. Yeah. And again, there's all sorts of Buddhist traditions with all sorts of different ways of practice. But it is possible to maybe do certain kinds of meditations and kind of put the Buddha off to the side and just say, well, no, this is my guru. This is the one who's my root teacher. And you see that person might not get it yet. Again, we can't read minds. We don't know for sure. But if you do take this seriously, that's something to look at. Like, do you put anything, anybody, any book, any scientist, any source of information over what you've heard from the Buddha, read in the Dhamma? Yeah? What your teachers tell you that this root teacher explained and pointed out. Well, then that's definitely something to look at. Like, why? What's the hang up? Okay. So then we have okay. So at the attainment of stream entry, at the cutting of the fetters, again, this is one thing. So there's something that we do. What could it be that causes all of these things to come about, to be secured? So in many places, the attainment of the fruit of stream entry is put in this particular way. It's like they finally they know and they see all that is of the nature to arise is of the nature to cease. So this is a fundamental understanding of impermanence as a universal characteristic of all phenomena. Yeah. All arisen phenomena, anything that is born dies, anything that arises ceases, whatever goes up must come down. This is understanding that given enough time, yeah, things must change. Nothing could be permanently the way it is. And if you've ever had trouble kind of figuring out what anatta is all about and this not self notion is in Buddhism, understand that you don't have to get it to get stream entry. Like, this understanding of impermanence is enough to cut identity view. Right? But there is no stream entry without the understanding of impermanence. There's no getting anatta, but not getting anicca. This is the core understanding here. They also get confirmed confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. They will never denigrate the Buddha as teacher, the Dhamma as like pointing to truth. They'll never denigrate the community of people who are practicing, right? Now, human beings, we do funny things. We get upset and we say, I don't like the way that guy teaches, or he's always translating that wrong. We say, the Buddha was a bit of he was a male in an Indian society. He looked down on women. It's just a bit harsh at times. We do these things, yeah. But I think at the end of the day, the thing about the stream enter is there's no bite to it. Yeah, they feel bad about it later, and they're like, no, I didn't mean it when I said that. I'm sorry, because there's just such respect for what they have woken up to. Yeah, and it's not that they suddenly feel a light comes down from the heavens and they're suddenly filled with bliss and everlasting faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. It's that they can't denigrate them. They understand where they are in the kind of scope of this practice now. They also acquire what's called noble virtue, or it's said in the Pali Canon, the virtues dear to the noble ones. And that's what's said. It's not saying they become perfect in the 5 precepts, because the precepts, interestingly, are a training. They're a training tool. But you see, in terms of the intention behind certain actions, in terms of the desire to do certain actions, this falls away. There is no inherent desire to kill. There's no inherent desire to steal. There's no inherent desire to harm others in sensual ways. They just can't persist in their mind because of the intensity of the suffering related to it. So whereas they might not even be in a place where it's possible to take the 5 precepts as a thing, they will be cultivating just naturally these ways of living based on seeing the suffering that they're trying to get away from. So they'll become more harmless. We say ahimsa towards living beings, more generous, more likely to let things go, maybe with effort, but to not hold to things, to not take things that don't belong to them. harm others in sensuality, and that could be sexually or yeah, all sorts of various ways that we can take our indulgences too far. To be more honest, less denigrating, again, less likely to insult or put people down. And then there would be appreciation of mindfulness, because no matter how drunk or intoxicated they could get, they won't stop suffering. And they know this. They know this deep down. Now, there were a couple of stream enterers who continued to drink. And sometimes the five precepts are given as the four precepts, because that's what's really locked in is the first four precepts. And the fifth one was tacked on later. But this is there. You know, even if you attain stream entry and you've got this really bad habit, this really bad dependency, you're not cultivating it anymore. You're not making that tendency stronger, but it may not immediately fall away. But you're going to feel bad about it. You're going to realize this is not helping the situation at all. There's no belief that ignorance is bliss. Quite the opposite. There will be a strong, strong understanding that ignorance is painful. The canon also says they cannot intentionally conceal an offense, thinking, may they not know this about me. So in place of that, when a stream enterer does something wrong, they do something that the Buddha applauded, even for somebody who really screwed up. He said, yes, you really screwed up. That was a really bad thing you did. But this is a cause for growth in the noble one's discipline. That one, seeing an offense, one acknowledges it, makes amends in accord with the Dhamma, and vows to show restraint in the future. So for a stream enterer, no matter how bad they screwed up, the Buddha, if they would acknowledge it, and the Buddha would say, yes, you screwed up, but good on you. This is a cause for growth. Stream enterers, they don't become perfect people. Nowhere near. Right? Even arahants break some of the rules from time to time, but they know and they acknowledge it and they make amends. Yeah, they're not trying to break rules. It's just human life is messy. In terms of rebirth, if they go no further in the life in which they attain stream entry, then they will be guaranteed to attain full enlightenment in the next life after 3 lives, or at most 7 more lifetimes. Yeah, and this is a package. It is 3 ways that it might play out, and I have no idea why. Totally no idea why. But it's said in multiple places that it could play out that way. So it's not to say that a stream enterer can't attain stream entry and then go on to attain full enlightenment in that same life. It's just that if they don't get any further in their development, then they die. However good they were doing in terms of meditation, really kind of they lost a lot of the skills, a lot of the things that they read. They're reborn. But what isn't reborn is the ignorance. What isn't reborn are the fetters. So again, they're born in a life where they don't have the fetter of doubt. 20% is gone right there. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. We can think to ourselves, was I born with the fetter of doubt? Maybe I'm already a stream enterer. Yeah. Well, that would be their life. They would. This is why they so quickly move towards Buddhist practice when they encounter it, because there's no capacity for doubting what is wholesome and moves in the direction of their goal. Even if they're reborn, even if they'll carry on anything from their past path of practice, they will immediately fall in line with that when they encounter it. And this is said to be opening the eye of Dhamma. So the person who is a stream enterer is independent of all others in the teacher's dispensation. That is a way to say they have had a personal experience, and they no longer go to meditation night only when their friends are going. They no longer listen to a Dhamma talk only because they like the teacher. They are capable of practicing on their own. They are not dependent on others, and they will continue to practice even if they're picked up and dropped somewhere else on the planet. They will. Their understanding of the Dhamma does not go away, because they have personally understood the nature of the Four Noble Truths. They have personally seen all conditioned things are impermanent. That can't be taken away from them. It's not possible. And so they carry that with. So yeah, that's a package of things and a lot of things to think about. And I wonder, is there any sense in any of that big download of material where you're like, this is one thing? Yes. This is obviously just one thing. It's just one thing that I need to get in order for this to be secure, to be good, to be done. Maybe a sense of impermanence, maybe a capacity to be ignorant of suffering, to not realize that certain things are suffering. Maybe a tendency to hold to things that are not beneficial, and the ability to get stuck. And maybe some of this can get us to consider, like, is there a common theme to a lot of our hangups in these areas? Yeah, when we try to think about how this thing is not self, or how this thing is not self, or what is myself. And we realize it's really not so much that we're confused about it, is that we really want to have an answer. We really like to not be confused about it. Yeah. Whereas, could we accept that maybe it's just a confusing topic and we're actually better off if we don't speculate about it? And are we capable of doing? Are we capable of not speculating about random things that we can't possibly know? Are we capable of not putting others down or coveting other people's stuff? Could we imagine a world in which we have given up a kind of bad, wrong conduct that we know will always make us suffer, and we're just so certain it'll make us suffer that we'll never do it? And somebody could hit us on the head and we get amnesia and we wake up in a hospital bed and we in a different town and we walk out of the hospital and we lead a completely different life, not knowing who we were before, and yet we still don't do that thing because it wasn't something that our parents taught us. It wasn't something we saw in a movie and we decided was a good idea. It's just something that we personally know that is not to be done. I'm just not going to do that. That makes me suffer. All right. So I did want to, because it's a lot of stuff, and it's certainly a possibility that there's stuff in there that's curious, weird, never before seen. You have questions about. I did want to leave a bit of time for any questions or clarifications to come up before we go to the meditation. So anybody? I can't see everybody at one time, so just turn on the microphone and say something if you have any question or comment. Don't be afraid. No, we're all good. Well, we're all good. And why are we doing this topic? Right? We're all in complete agreement. This is definitely the right thing. This is good. This is totally just Dhamma ho. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This is the right top. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say this is the right topic, and there's so much here for me to think about over the next few hours that I have no questions. Thank you.
I have a question, Bunch. The thing that always gets me is the doubt in like the Dhammas and the Sanghas, because after the Buddha died, there are like the 17 schools of thought, and there are many things now that are just considered Dhamma or Dharma that just does not seem that way at all? And is the Sangha in reference to Arya Sangha or just the like the vast worldwide Sangha?
It's a good question. Yes. And as the Buddha would say in the Kalama Sutta, is like you're doubtful and confused about something that is dubious and confusing. Right? This is the world we live in, right? So it's been 2,648 years since the Buddha was enlightened. Because shortly after he was enlightened, he started explaining this to people, and it's been that long since people started getting it wrong. The very first person he met, he said, "I am the Tathagata. I'm fully enlightened. I have completed all the paramis. I am the greatest in the world." And the person says, "Oh, maybe so," and walked off. And probably the next thing he did was he turned to the next person he met and said, "There's a weirdo on the path. Yeah, he's saying all sorts of things. Don't believe him." Right? So people have been getting it wrong from day one, and that's not a problem in the Dhamma. It's not the problem in the Buddha as teacher, and it's not necessarily a fatal defect in the Sangha as a community of human beings, right? It is we begin the practice ignorant. Yeah, we begin the practice with defilements, and the practice doesn't immediately erase those. So some of what we do is going to be messed up. We're going to get things wrong. We're going to go on a tangent for a decade, and then suddenly realize, oh, I've been meditating totally wrong. That's not the way to do it. This is the way to do it. And that to some degree, that's to be expected, and it's kind of okay. Right. So the faith that arises is not in the Pali Canon per se. It's not only in Buddha Vachana, only in the word of the Buddha that I have faith, and everything else that has come after it's garbage. Throw it out. It's not. You will anytime you see a monk, you'll immediately have confidence in them as a human being and believe that they're only composed of virtue. I really encourage you not to do that. I've known a couple monks. It's not. Yeah, but these principles, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, they're not human principles. They are outside of human principles. So the Buddha was not the Buddha. He was a Buddha. Right? And so the ability to become enlightened was not something he owned. Right? When you have confidence in the Buddha, you're having confidence that enlightenment is possible. And when you have that confidence, if you encounter something that somebody says, this person is enlightened, this person is great, this person is holy, you should do everything they say. You say, well, maybe so. Because you don't know. You can't read their mind. All you can do is study their conduct and decide for yourself. And this is what the Buddha would encourage. Like, don't just believe what I say. He would probably say it just like, don't just believe me just because I'm sitting here and I've got this perfect complexion, or I've got all these fancy marks of the Buddha. He would say, consider what I say and put it to the test and see, do unwholesome qualities decrease and wholesome qualities increase? And if so, you can know that is for my benefit. That is the correct way to practice. Right? So it's really up for us to be our own bullshit detector, right? To really know for ourselves. And if we have, it's okay to not know, right? It's okay to, open to say just as an example, the Lotus Sutra, and to start read it and to get like 3 chapters in and say, I have no idea what this is about. That's totally fine. Yeah. Not everything that is Buddhist has to make sense. It has to be beneficial even. The Buddha didn't teach one way fits all. Right? And different sanghas are going to practice in different ways. As I said, like in Tibetan, you'll see all sorts of like deity guru meditations or Tara meditations. And it's not to say that if you practice like Tara meditation, you're wrong and you could go to hell. It's no, obviously it's in a Buddhist tradition steeped in all sorts of wholesomeness, right? But you encounter anybody who says, "Oh yeah, Tara is a way better Buddha," just set Gautama aside. He's a schmuck. You're really like, well, that's weird. Why would you do that? If Tara is good, Tara would be good for the exact same reasons that Gautama Buddha was good. And you know for yourself, it's like, well, that doesn't sound like a useful way to practice. And internally, you see what feels right. Yeah. And so doing away with doubt doesn't do away with not knowing. It doesn't do away with not having all the answers, right? It actually, in a way, it reveals this. The stream enterer is completely aware of all the things that they don't know, and it's still vexing. It's not pleasant. You're like, I don't know if this guy's enlightened. Should I listen to him? I don't know if this sangha is practicing well, or if they're just they give the Dhamma talk and then they go out back and they smoke a cigarette and they laugh. I don't know. But what we do know is what sounds right. We do know is what leads to wholesome things growing in our lives and unwholesome things shrinking. And that's really what we just need to focus on. Another way of putting this is, again, the stream enterer, because they're independent of others, they start thinking about others a lot less. Know exactly how to put that in a way that sounds like really loving and holy and all of that. But my teacher, Ajahn Pasano, would put it a particular way. And I said this many times because he said it in such a funny way and he enjoyed himself so much. One day, the whole Sangha was gathered and surrounding him, and we're his children. He's ordained 15 monks, and we're all sitting around him and we're having tea and we're just basking. And, we're with our teacher, the Buddha statue, we're in a temple. He just gave a great Dhamma talk and he's sitting around and with his cup of tea and he looks around at all of us and he knows, you know what? When I get back to my kuti at the end of the day, you people don't exist. and we weren't like, he doesn't care about us. Obviously he cares about us. He puts up with all of our crap day in and day out as we continue to get things wrong and to not sweep in the right direction and all sorts of things. He puts up with it. But he doesn't dwell on us. Like, we're not a condition for his happiness. We can please him from time to time, but he's happy independent of us. And he gets back to his kuti and we're just extra stuff that he doesn't carry with him. He's back in his kuti and he's just one monk in a building. Not a head of a monastery or head of an order or anything like that. So likewise, we want to kind of get to the place where what other people are doing matters less and less. Right? We just say, you know what, when I sit down in meditation, you all disappear. Right? Because I have enough to work with. There's enough going on in here to keep me occupied. Okay. Laura, did you have something? No? Oh, that's right. You were just saying that you don't have any questions. So that's we think that something's wrong. It's supposed to, this should bring up questions. Okay, well, if nothing else, maybe we can break now for meditation. So the way we do meditations, we usually take a little break and the room stays open. So for those who are at home doing their meditation schedule, we tend to change posture on the half hour. So just decide on a half hour if you want to keep sitting or get up and do some walking. And we'll go until noon Eastern time. And again, anybody who would like a one-on-one slot, just give me a message right now before everybody breaks off, and I'll sign you in. And we'll come back at 2 p.m. Eastern, where we will talk more about the thicket of views and opinions and attachments to rites and rituals and all of that.